person that caught down here in the corner.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if anyone's in.
Yeah, 2
Hello.
people, 1 person. Yeah.
Woo! Oh yeah, I see. I can work this. I can work social media. It's my own phone telling me we're live. How fun's that? I thought, oh, got a message from someone. I don't know what my hair's doing either. Hello, welcome. Really nice to see people that are here. This is really confusing, isn't it? This is the first proper one I've done on my own. I'll just chat for a minute if you want. We'll see if anyone else turns up. I think what I'm going to do is I'll talk a little bit more about induction and process this week, and hopefully that it might then twig a few questions. Mrs. Bendel might come and join us in 20 minutes so she can say hi again to everyone. And I'm also going to talk about my job, which is providing you guys with really good opportunities. You can talk about some of the extra things you might want to get involved in, because I should probably wait for a few more people to join, shouldn't I? Please do ask questions. I'm that scary. I'm a little bit scary. I don't know which camera to look at. There's one, I've got three devices going on. This laptop, when I turn my head, I'm like, oh my God, I can see inside my face, and I don't like it. But we'll see who's in. I hope I can hear Miss Holden laughing outside, and I don't know whether that's at me or not. I'm a bit petrified. Right, so hello. Yeah, give us a wave. Bendel's in. I don't like that you're kind of eerily watching me, Mrs. Bendel. I feel like you're going to include this on my appraisal later. Like, better grasp of Instagram. Right, okay, let's just talk. Yeah, I hope you've had a really good week this week. Induction's really powerful because you get to try out all of your different subjects, and it really is important to your happiness in your time in sixth form that your subject combination is one you feel happy with, one that you feel like you're going to be really successful with, and also hopefully you just get excited by the subjects you're going to study, because they are a step up from GCSE, and that kind of academic engagement where there's a bit more rigour and a bit more detail is hopefully really exciting. I've just seen a nice little confidence boosting. You're doing great. Totally. It's nice to see everyone. Please do ask some questions about induction. I'll come back to it. Basically, all of the lessons will be released in about an hour's time. And you can then watch any other subjects that you might have an interest in. There might be a subject this week that you haven't enjoyed, or you think it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be. And then you might think about changing subject, and you can look at the different courses that we have on offer, try out their lessons, and then all of the information about changing course will go out with those subject lessons in about an hour's time. So you can look at that then. Good old switches. Don't know who Jem Manning is. Hello, Jem. Let's do some shout outs. Favel's in. Hello, Becca Favel. How are you? I can't. You're not interacting with me at all, are you? But hey, Favel. I'm sure you've been hurdling for the last 6 months. Matthias has joined. Anyway, nice. Right, it's nice to see everyone. Please do ask questions. Most of you seem to be on Instagram, and I'll keep trying to look at it. So yeah, my job in sixth form really is to provide you guys with loads and loads of cool opportunities. It's also putting on induction week and making sure that you have a really smooth transition into the start of year 12, that you make loads of new friends, and that you feel supported and happy here, and that you're going to fit in and find the way to being you. I think that's a good way to think about it. It's really different to year 11, and I think us setting that adult tone, that adult ethos, and that you're part of a wider community and a wider team is really important when you join year 12. And some of the ways in which you get to experience that transition are by the extracurricular things we put on. So hopefully in September, as long as social distancing allows, we'll get to do some fun on the field, and we can have some kind of, we call it Walden Wipeout with your tutors, and hopefully we can get a lunchtime on an afternoon to really get to mingle within your forms. But also your subject teachers in those first few weeks will really want you guys to mingle within lessons, so that lessons are a really nice space where you can talk to each other and discuss ideas and help each other out, because actually you're going to spend a long time with the people in your classes. You have 9 lessons of each of your subject over the fortnight, and that time is a really good time. That time is a time in which you're going to be together, and so they need that subject space to be really good, and you'll hopefully make lots of friends in your subject too. I don't know which one to look at. Most of you are on Instagram, so I feel like I need to be face on to Instagram. The back of my hair is truly horrendous. I've got an 8:30 hair appointment on Saturday, which is the most exciting thing ever. Making me very, very excited. I might even run there. Hey, sir, who's Rosie GL? Hey, Rosie GL. No idea. I like all the smiles and waves. It's quite exciting. Okay, so some of the other extracurricular things. I think the most obvious one at the start of the year is that you have to, you can join an elective. I don't like all these messages. This is really weird. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Flo. And anyone else? Hey, Helena. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I think the most obvious thing about extracurricular things is electives. And so in those first couple of weeks, on a Wednesday afternoon, I'll be setting up electives. That Wednesday afternoon is a time really for you to do something either that you enjoy or something that you feel is going to build your personal portfolio. So that might be related to the subject you might want to study at university or a career you want to go into. It might be that we get some good work experience on that Wednesday afternoon. It might be that it's something you enjoy. So it might be a sport or you take up some music. You get involved in the music academy, maybe. It might be that you get involved in one of our student bodies. And the main one I run is the committee. I know the student, if you were here yesterday, the students spoke at length about the committee because they're all members of it. But the committee's kind of, I don't want to say it's the main one, but the committee is definitely the biggest student body. And it's big because we run our Charities Week just in December. Charities Week is 3 days and we put on, but it's about 3 months worth of planning where we put on events both at break and lunchtime for the whole school to enjoy, and we raised about £10,000. Last year's Charities Week was big and fun, and it's part of our yearly fundraising. The other thing the committee do, so some events guys in that are the Xmas Factor. I think I might present the Xmas Factor again this year because I like getting the sparkly jacket out. I love how much fun you guys seem to have on these live streams. Hey, Ruben, whoever that is. It's just me. I have a lot of fun just by myself, clearly. I think I might need Miss Holden to come back in a minute. I'm feeling a bit lonely. What was I saying? Yeah, so some of the events, Xmas Factor, Strictly Come Dancing, which I quite like to get involved in this year. Hopefully, those of you that join the committee, maybe you'll persuade me to get involved in Strictly. It's the one big show I haven't done. But we also had other great things last year too, like teachers do TikTok. We had like battling teachers. I can't remember what that was called, but that was fantastic. So teachers fighting out in a competition in Saffron Hall. It was really, really good fun. When are you able to join the committee? So from the very start, Ashley, so the current committee members, it's so terrifying. Miss Holden's looking at me. The current committee members will advertise to join the committee. The committee doesn't actually happen on a Wednesday afternoon. It happens on a Monday lunchtime. But that will count as your elective time. So on that Wednesday afternoon, you might use that for independent study. You may go home, you may go into town and see your friends, that sort of thing. We want you to have an adult experience. When I launch electives, you'll write an application to join the committee. However, what I would say is I like having anyone involved that really wants to have some fun, wants to mingle, wants to get involved. It's a real mixture of external students, internal newcomers. And it's a real mixture of students studying wide range of different subjects. And I like it to be that inclusive in that way. So as long as you're enthusiastic, I think that you can definitely join one of the student bodies. Who's that? Hattie. The other student bodies, so I talked about the committee because we run Charities Week. The other student bodies are the union and the council. The union, I think, runs on a Tuesday lunchtime and the council normally runs on a Monday lunchtime. And normally students are just part of one of the student bodies. We do also have a kind of fourth student body, which can be a way in which students like to feel like they can give back to the school. But that tends to run from about Easter until the following Easter. So, and it's called our head students. We actually recruited our head students for next year now. But next Easter, you'll get the chance to become a head student. As a head student, you'll represent the school at different events. You might do tours. You might do some other, but you also look after your kind of individual projects. So for instance, this year, Emma, she looked after kind of girls into STEM and she was really involved in the science department and encouraging girls to do STEM subjects at A-level and so on. But other projects might be like improving the school space or improving teaching and learning or improving mental health in the sixth form, and you have a very distinct project in which you work on. How much control do students have over Charities Week? Loads, unless it's something controversial. And if it's something controversial, what happens is you are listened to. I absolutely promise you are listened to. I will take that event to senior management, and normally I invite the chairs of the committee with me, and we present those ideas for Charities Week. So it's a good way to see how the school works, actually joining a student body. But basically, you have complete control over Charities Week. I'm there as kind of a middleman and a facilitator to make the technical side of it happen and get the staffing right and encourage staff to get involved. But you guys are there to lead on the events. Normally, groups of 2 or 3 will take control of each event, maybe even larger for some of the bigger events, maybe even more of you for some of the bigger events. But you have complete control over it. There's sort of a limit to how many people can be in the committee, but I think this year we've had about 40 at points, so you've got a good chance of getting in. I think we just want you to be happy and excitable, and you've got to remember there are 2 other student bodies that you can join as well, so it's not the end of the world. You're the support guidance, yeah, Ruben, that's exactly right. So I'm there to kind of offer you a staff contact and to go to meetings with people that can make stuff happen, like the site team, and senior management team, and people that might need to approve things. Anyone else got any questions? Please do ask some questions in the side. Maybe I'll waffle on about some other things. So as part of my role that's not really a sixth form role, I also help run, so next year, oddly, there's been some students asking, Ruben, trying to set up an Alpha Club. So yeah, that we do have a Christian Union, and that's certainly something that if you want to start or want to lead on, and you can encourage other people to lead on that with you, we'd support that by finding a room and giving you some space and time to do it. There's so many societies: politics society, debating society. We have conversational French and Spanish and German. There's various politics societies depending on what your political orientation is. The student bodies are almost societies in their own. In that elective time, there's also kind of like paint art and mural painting. There's obviously huge amounts of drama and music that go on. You can get involved in musical theatre group here, which is fantastic. And our drama department also put on, I think next year it's going to be a musical. Music, there's literally 20 different clubs, and the senior ensembles would love to have you involved. If you are kind of pretty good as a musician, you want to develop your musicianship, you can also you can join the music academy, and that will be a timetabled hour on your timetable where they'll teach you kind of musicality, composition, all that sort of thing. But also you get to work with professional musicians. So I studied music A-level, and I think it's amazing that we have Saffron Hall as a performance space, and also just where we have assemblies and briefings and lots of kind of events in there too. I think Saffron Hall's amazing because it's a kind of external organisation with professional musicians. It was incredible, like seeing really famous jazz musicians like Wynton Marsalis last year come and play music with the kids in sixth form. I think it's fantastic, great opportunity. Hey Joe, hey Miss Chapman. Mrs. Chapman's just joined on Instagram because she's cooler than I am. You guys need to get to know Mrs. Chapman next year. Mrs. Chapman is like the go-to in sixth form if you need kind of a smiley face and some love. And she'll make your day as much as she makes my day most days. And if you're just like feeling a little bit blue, which I felt a little bit in lockdown some days, I come across like I'm really happy all the time, but I was a bit miserable some days because I hate virtual school. It's a bit rubbish and boring, and I don't get to see you guys. But if you just need some love and you need someone to make you smile, Mrs. Chapman is the person to go to. Hello, Mrs. Chapman. We should have got you in for a live feed, Mrs. Chapman, shouldn't we? Let's go back to kind of electives and other stuff. So yeah, volunteering wise, in that elective slot, we work with lots of external organisations. So the local food bank, loads of our local primary feeder schools will have people go and help volunteer with the students there and help out with their after school clubs. We've also had people volunteering at the community events. So things like Age Concern, those sorts of things we're trying to set up for next year too. So lots of volunteering opportunities. I also do. Miss Holden's just arrived, and she's reminded me.
Oh.
Do you want in?
No, this is your show.
Do I have, oh no, I don't like being. I don't know. Yes, it is. What was I saying? Can't remember. Oh, Miss Holden's just right. Miss Holden and I are quite heavily involved in Duke of Edinburgh here, and Gold Duke of Edinburgh, which I think we will offer to you. If not next year, we'll give you the opportunity to do it in year 13. I think so that everyone's got
We
the
are
opportunity.
hoping it will do it. We'll go next year. Somebody
We're
asked
hoping we'll
yesterday
go next
about
year.
Gold DOV and how it runs. So it is run during the elective time, but they meet in elective time, do they?
No, so it's normally Mondays after school. Lots of stuff happens on Monday, clearly. It's normally Mondays after school, but that of course might change. And the volunteering side of Gold Duke of Edinburgh, you might use your elective slot for. There are volunteering opportunities for animals because we have agricultural science unit who love to have people down there helping them out. Especially at lunchtimes with the younger students get to go and join farm club, and it's really helpful to have some sixth formers there, almost acting as a kind of supervisor, which is good. What kind of practical life skills do you guys do or teach? Oh, that's an interesting question. I feel like we should set up a cooking elective.
Yes.
And bring me the cake.
because that's the kind of skill you need as a teacher.
That's the kind of,
Sarah makes very good cakes as well.
I do make very good cakes, but normally what happens is I'm a little bit of a panicker sometimes about this. So like I'll ask someone for a recipe, I try the recipe, and then often what happens is it just explodes. Like the last cake I made, it exploded outside of the tin, but it tasted delicious, didn't it? It did taste delicious, but it exploded outside of the tin.
Ruben, I would say in terms practical life skills. Well, I think we do some other practical. We asked students about this, didn't we, as for practical life skills that they wanted to use, and they even wanted to do things like ironing and like managing money and things. So actually, on Monday, I think I mentioned something called Motorwise or Roadster, we call it now. But there are other practical skills that we put in there as well. So we don't do ironing in that session because we'd have to fill out the most massive risk assessment going, but. We do things like money management, and we do look at things like mortgages and buying houses, that kind of stuff, or renting houses, what you would do on a budget, that kind of thing. But Ruben, if there's anything else that you would like to see throughout next year, then you're very welcome, or for anybody for that matter. If there's something that you want to do next year, that's my role actually, PSHE, and that kind of area is my bit. No, it wasn't part of elective time. It was part of a timetable collapse, actually. But if you wanted to do, we could always set up an elective if it was in demand as a kind of practical life skills. This week we're going to teach you how to make a cake with Mr. Crittenden, or
It won't be ironing with me. Mrs. Cox constantly moans at shirts I've got out of the packet with the creases doing. For elective, any chance to help out the secondary school? Yes, absolutely. So our learning support team are amazing. I've actually had Tim, if you saw Tim yesterday in the video, has been acting as a teaching assistant for me with some students actually in year 10. But he's been coming and joining in, and he's had a great time, and the students have treated him like a member of staff. So yes, there's absolutely that opportunity. Equally, we also have a fantastic learning support team. And if you would like to mentor maybe students that find school hard in the lower school, there's lots and lots of mentoring opportunities to work within our own school. Certainly Maths and English run an elective in the Wednesday afternoon slot. It normally happens at a kind of form time for lower school, where you guys literally help out students that are maybe on the 4-5 border at GCSE to help get them up to a 5 in their English GCSE, and that works really, really well, and the English department love them.
Yeah, made a couple of Joe. Mrs. Chapman is mentioning that Ruben's going to make a whole new CV by the time he's finished sixth form. That would be great. It
will be great. I hope you're getting Ruben, and I hope and everyone actually. Oh, where's the video?
No, it's all right. I've just turned it around. Sorry.
Panic. I hope you're getting the impression from everything that we've said actually over the last 3 days that we think as part of the team, including you and your parents, and we want you to be grown-ups in this situation. And I think actually, if you've got great ideas, put them to us and we will support you to do them. This is not it's not the same as lower school where it's like an extracurricular society, you come and join it. Actually, no, we want you in a much more university style way to take the lead on those societies, because we think it builds your leadership skills, and actually you're more invested in it then as a student body and a student community. And we're here to kind of be part of that process, but not necessarily to do all the work for you, you know.
Mr. Chapman's just said as well that this time next year, whilst you guys are doing induction now, our current year 12s into year 13 should be doing work experience, but obviously some of them have managed to get virtual work experience actually, so that's a great thing. But this is what you guys will be doing this time next year, is gauging work experience. That's kind of a nice extracurricular thing to do. For some of you as well, you might be able to do it throughout the year rather than this at this point in time. We'll have to wait and see on that one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if it's really good work experience, that is something we would approve during term time, because actually it's all about kind of building I talk a lot, I think, about building your kind of personal portfolio, and sixth form is this kind of progression, isn't it, from being a child essentially to finding out what you want to do in life and having something to look forward to in adult life when you leave school. And all of those extra things you do build that professional portfolio, whether that's music or sport or volunteering or work experience. All of those things build your kind of character and your professional identity.
So yes, some of those work experiences are outside of school. You do get to go somewhere else. You just sign out for the afternoon and you go and do that. There are a couple of questions here about EPQ. I just spotted. Yes.
So EPQs, they run from the start of the summer term in year 12 through to most students have finished them by Christmas or over the Christmas holidays. EPQ is, again, it's about all this personal portfolio. There are loads of things you can do to add to kind of the body of experience you get, and an extended project might be one of them. Extended project, if you don't know, is a kind of a project of your choice. You design the project, you research the project, and you act on the project and deliver a kind of written essay, or you might make an artifact or something. And it does count as a AS qualification, which is half an A level. So you do get some UCAS points for it. But obviously there's other things you can do as well. And it might be that you do an EPQ because you really like academic study, and that's the thing that really excites you, and you really want to learn about the subject you want to pursue at university more, and the kind of small niche area. But it might be that actually you want to go in the world of work, and work experience would be a better fit for you. And so it's all about getting the right opportunities for you, isn't it? Mrs. Bendell's come to join in.
Yay.
Hi, everyone.
Somebody, Ruben again, has asked, are EPQs required? They're not a requirement at County High. It's an optional thing that you will then do, as Serge just said, after the Easter holidays, you kind of opt into it, and then you'll fulfill that either. Mrs. Bendell was saying last night on the Twitter takeover, actually, you can either opt to hand it in November or
November or January, depending on where you are with your timeline. So you'll be allocated, like I don't know if you've said this already, so like an EPQ advisor that will work with you quite closely. They'll talk to you about your chosen theme. They'll kind of help you with research a little bit and sort of steer you in the right direction. And you will meet with them on a regular basis, and then you kind of organise your submission with them.
Yeah. Ruben, you're so right. I'm sorry, I'm pressing things and I shouldn't be on the screen. How do I get out of that?
I don't know. What have I pushed that? I don't know.
I've pressed something I shouldn't have done. Ruben, you just mentioned that in listening to us over the last 3 days, you're absolutely right that we are definitely not just teachers. Academically, we want to see your progress, but we are definitely building you as people and teaching you how to become adults and young adults. That you've just summed up our job beautifully.
Yeah, completely. And the thing is, like, you might not always get it right, but as an adult, I don't always get it right. So it's knowing how to it's knowing how to give you to kind of you confirm that. It's knowing how to deal with that, isn't it?
Yeah,
you deal with kind of what life throws at you.
Yeah.
Owning the fact that as an adult you need to be able to deal with your problems, and knowing that actually people are around you to support you, and actually surround yourself with people that are there to kind of hold you when you need it.
Absolutely.
And
is that like
you can't go wrong.
Like us three?
Definitely.
The year 12 team. In
case you weren't sure, we will be the year 12 team next year.
That's very true.
Yes, we are. Dream team.
Dream team.
Thank you, Mrs. Chapman, for answering our questions as we go along if we're missing them.
Well done, Mrs. Chapman.
We have a question from Gabby, I think. Is it possible to take 4 A levels all the way through into year 13?
Yes, it is. We I mentioned this last night on Twitter, actually. We generally don't recommend it. It does happen in a small case of people. But generally the workload that's associated with it, I wouldn't necessarily say, like going back to kind of the point about trying to build you up more than just your academic profile. Like, that's important, obviously, as to what you come out with. But actually, by that point, when you're moving into year 13, you're definitely progressing into kind of your future career, university, whatever it is that you're going for. And actually, what's more important at that point is shaping you as an individual. And I think 4 A levels kind of crowds that, and I think possibly affects your ability to develop as an individual, because you are just so solely driven by the subjects that you're doing. So we wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It can happen, and it does happen. But generally, there's a reason why we drop down from 4 to 3. And that is, you're trying to build specialisms, you're trying to take up all the other wonderful opportunities that we've got in the sixth form. And so actually having 4 A levels just absolutely smashes your timetable in that respect, that you don't have time for the independent work that the other A levels require you to do. And I think it's a case of potentially, in some cases, spreading yourself too thinly and doing 4 A levels well when you could be doing 3 A levels fantastically. So
you need the time and space, whatever your progression route. If that is an apprenticeship, you need the time and space to do some good work experience, to really research those, to put in good applications. And the same if you're applying for university, you need the time and space for the subject you're going to study to really get into the depths of the academic detail of that subject and do some wider reading, because that's the thing that's really going to set you apart. There's no universities will offer on 4 subjects, not even Oxford and Cambridge. And so there's no kind of
solely
advantage.
On that, like, they won't look at 4 and go,
exactly.
oh yeah, you're in.
Exactly. There's no advantage to doing 4, really. I mean, it shows that you can probably manage your time, but so does having a whole wide range of other experiences too.
And actually, if you think about it, if you were up against another person for a really competitive job or apprenticeship or university application, you've got 4 A levels but 0 kind of practical skills, and you're up against someone that's maybe done 3 A levels but has volunteered at a local primary school, and helps out and mentoring in the community, all those sorts of wonderful things that having a little bit of extra space allows you to do. They're going to be so much more sort of attractive as a candidate than potentially someone with 4 A levels.
There's a question about, is there going to be somebody that will advise them on which subject to drop throughout the year?
Yeah, that's where your tutor comes in mostly. You'll have lots of tutorials throughout the year, and what will happen is you will get a natural feel anyway for your subjects and for which you are excelling in, which you really enjoy, and kind of natural pathways often do occur. You might think, actually, it's going to be the maths, physics, computing route that I go down, or it's going to be the languages and linguistics route that I go down, in which case it might be really obvious as to which subject that you drop. But there are plenty of people that are not in that position, and even at this point in time, I'm sure the current sort of 12s into 13s will account for the fact that some of them are still a bit like, well, actually my subjects leave me open to 2 potential routes, and I'm still unsure. So there will be lots of support in you being able to make those decisions. Your tutor will be the first person that will support you mostly, but also the collegiate are around to kind of discuss options. And we generally recommend, if you are in that position where you're stuck and you need extra support, is to seek it out if you need extra guidance, but also to kind of try and work backwards. So starting to think about potential jobs, university courses, apprenticeships, whatever it is that attracts you, and kind of work backwards and think, right, well, if that's going to be the end goal, what do I need to do in the meantime to get me to that goal in the most easiest way? And that generally carves out quite an obvious pathway. Usually, there are some complex ones.
It can feel quite stressful, can't it, when you're 16 and everyone's barking at you saying, well, what are you going to do with your life? Where do you want to go? Make the decision next week. And I think actually be gentle on yourself, and lots of these things happen.
It's okay to not
quite
know.
naturally, and you might get different interests over the next year, and that's going to change your options.
Yeah.
And even when you go off to a career or university, like that's not the end. That's not this is what you do for the rest of your life.
No.
People change their mind all the time,
right.
and that's acceptable.
And generations are changing, in that your generation are going to be in multiple careers. We're not in the kind of situation now where people start a job at age 18 and then they stay in that until they retire. That's not how the career industry careers work these days. So I think Mr. Crittenden's absolutely right. And also the fact is, if you do want to get to a point where actually you drop a subject that still there's not a really obvious progression path, but it keeps doors open, that's fine as well. You don't have to have made a decision. Your decision can be, for now, I'm going to make a decision that delays my ultimate decision, that just keeps doors open and options open for me, so that when the penny does drop or something happens and I think actually I really enjoyed this or that or didn't enjoy that, then you still have doors open and options available to you.
That was one of the best bits of advice I was given, and this might help a couple of people. I've noticed that, Ruben, I think you've mentioned that you want to be a teacher in the future potentially, but I knew I wanted to be a teacher at some point, but I went to a couple of open days at universities and looked at different courses, but went back and spoke to my geography teacher actually, who was also then my tutor in year 11, so I felt like I could have a chat with him about stuff, and he said just go and do what you enjoy at university, or go in, and if I was your age now, I'd be also looking at ways into teaching that might be more of an apprenticeship route or a slightly different way, rather than getting a degree and going into teaching, because there are different routes out there. So yes, I thought it was you, Ruben. So that was the best advice I was given, was I delayed my ultimate decision of how to get into teaching by going and doing a geography degree. Loved the 3 years, and then that meant that I've made my decision to not be a primary school teacher but to be a secondary teacher in the subject that I then really loved. So doing that kind of thing is fine. So you seek advice from different people, your tutor, us guys, home as well, talk to people, talk to your friends, use Unifrog as the platform. There's lots and lots that we can lots and avenues.
And I think, don't forget, it's a really, sixth form can be really quick. And don't forget that it's about progression. The guys did mention it yesterday. Yes, it's about progression, but don't forget to kind of enjoy being 16 and have some fun as well. Yes, the academic side is really, really important, and we want you to work hard and we want you to feel successful in your subjects, because at the end of the day, that is the point of school. But also make sure you get involved so that you make memories, you have great friendships, and you just enjoy life, because that's so much a part of being in sixth form too.
Blink and you'll miss it. So if you are too head down in your books, then you've got to look up and appreciate the journey as well.
Is the early applicants program during elective time?
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you can't do another elective at some of the points. So we mentioned that lots of other electives happen at other times, not just Wednesday afternoons. So the early applicant program, you would sit and do stuff with Dr. Wood next year on a Wednesday afternoon, but that doesn't hold you back doing something else at another point.
And do watch, if you are interested in early apps, if you may not know what early apps are if you're listening. So early apps there are certain courses, including all of the Oxford and Cambridge courses, where you have to apply to those courses earlier than you would other things, and so that they're kind of the early applications, which is why they're called early apps. But I sent a video home last week to your parents with Dr. Wood talking through what early apps are and whether or not you'd be interested. I kind of think it's all about raising aspirations, and it's not, you may or may not get into Oxford Cambridge, you may or may not study medicine, but actually it will make you think harder about your subject, and that's a good thing, and you can definitely still get involved if you think that might be for you.
And for those people that are thinking of going into an apprenticeship or employment straight from sixth form, then you'll work with Miss Coates next year, and it may be that we've there's an early apps kind of program, but there's also going to be a careers apps program for the following year as well. So you're all equally as loved as each other.
I mean, we were looking at, Mrs. Bender was looking at apprenticeships yesterday, and there was one that was like £500 a week or something, which is
amazing.
It's amazing.
So it was fairly local. You got paid like £560 a week. You got a level
more than
3
they pay me.
qualification. There's a reason for that. And it was amazing. I couldn't believe it. If I had my time again, I'd definitely explore that in more detail.
I would definitely. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure why the lighting is like flashing in here.
I know it is. It makes you feel like we're in a
low standard rave.
Mrs. Cox is probably tampered with it, isn't she?
Yes, we're in the head of sixth form's office.
Which will be our office next year.
It will, you'll be able to find us.
We're going to gate crash and move over here. Right, any other questions that we've got?
No, we haven't got any other questions so far, unless people are holding back till we paused. Maybe people are frantically typing away, Mrs. Bendel.
That last one?
That was the early applicants.
Okay.
Ruben's written something just above about you not being able to decide going straight into teaching or going to uni and doing something. Ruben, you don't need to know that now. You've got a good year to start forming those decisions, and even if you've not decided after that.
Yeah,
then-
I came into teaching
Yeah.
5 years after doing something else, so it's it's a great profession, but it's something that you can opt into at a later date.
Yeah.
And because there are so many amazing routes in, because for that reason exactly, they don't just want to try and catch the graduate talent. They want to obviously catch people that perhaps had some industry experience and people that come to it in later life and things like that. So yeah, don't worry too much about that. Just focus on, like Mr. Quinton says, enjoying year 12, getting a really great start to your subjects, and also kind of the fact that you even know that that's potentially what you might want to do is you've already got a huge advantage.
And I think, you know, people change their mind all the time. And I wanted to be a musician. When I was your age, I was sat there, I was in a band, and I wanted to be a musician.
Any
I thought we were famous.
I didn't know this.
find
This is brilliant.
The band was cool. The band was called Big D and the Marshmallows. It was horrendous. Anyway, the band was horrendous. We weren't very good at playing guitar on it.
This is a whole new charity week thing. Oh, just two ways.
Yes. Let's get the band
sure.
back together. The charity week. I've gone really red.
Brilliant.
I can't go
Let's
with this.
save Mr.
Where am I going with
Quinton.
this? I wanted to be a musician. Never ever wanted to be a teacher. Then had a great physics teacher at A level, and I honestly, when I was submitting my university applications, I had one for music and one for physics. So I did music and drama and physics and maths.
Like absolutely
Polar opposites,
yeah.
because those were the things that interested me. And had a brilliant physics teacher, and then decided that I wanted to go and study physics. And then when I was at uni, I wanted to be a scientist the whole time. Then I did a master's, and it put me off physics. And then I was like, it was June of my master's, and I thought, oh, I better have a job for September. And now I'm a teacher, and I kind of just fell into it. And
just a rock star at weekends.
Yeah, and a rock star at weekends. Marathon runner on a Wednesday morning.
Indeed.
And I'm going to leave now.
Charlotte is loving the story while she has a question. So Charlotte, the summer work. So yes, most of you may have now found that when your lessons that you've been doing, your different induction lessons virtually, you may have found that you've been set some summer work. So that could have happened either during or at the end of lesson 1, 2, or 3. Actually, some of them may have waited till lesson 3.
Most tried to leave it until lesson 3.
They have, yeah. So do look out for it, because there may be summer work for every subject. You don't necessarily, Charlotte, need to bring that in for the first day back. The first day back will be settling in, meeting tutors, things like that. But I'm sure there's more information to come out about that. I would wait to see your timetable, because obviously you get a timetable when you arrive, and I would bring your summer work maybe to the first or second lesson back in that particular subject.
Yeah, I think also on that note, some subjects obviously rely on GCSE content much more. Yeah. So for instance, if you do my subject, if you do physics, I want your math skills to be kept up to date, and I want you to do a bit of, I want you to still be interested in physics. If you do a written subject, they want your English skills to be really, really good. And so reading some good books about those subjects. If you're doing
business, for example, we don't require you to have done GCSE business to study A level. So in which case, I'd much rather you spend the summer, obviously doing the summer work, but keeping up, with what's going on in the news, thinking about kind of the impact of COVID on businesses, and bringing those ideas so that you've got something to share and discuss in September.
And I would say, if you go to the website, there's transition booklets for each subject, and most of those have just put some kind of extra things you can read for interest. Now, I would try and read some of those things, because it keeps your interest, and it gives you kind of a way in, and it just kind of refreshed your memory of things that you might have heard of, things that might interest you. Do that. Maybe we'll post the link for that again on social media later.
And Charlotte, if you've got for anybody, if you've got any other questions about work that you've done this week or any of your induction work, then do get in touch with the teachers that have delivered that session for you. All of our emails follow the same style, so it's the initial of our first name followed by our surname @switchers.net. So either email them, and what you might find for those of you that are on Twitter, if not, do follow us on Twitter and follow some other professionals in your area of enjoyment or other subjects, because we were chatting about this. It's a good thing for you to do just generally. You can always ask us questions via our Twitter profiles as well. Do ask.
The school Twitter pages, so most subjects have got them.
Yeah, and they'll show you who to follow maybe as well. So if you've got any other questions, then do ask us before term ends.
Yeah, you can always email any of those email addresses that have gone out this week as well.
Definitely.
What's that say?
We're like,
How do we access the induction? Oh, they are going out
They're going
as we
coming out
speak,
hard.
I think. They should be out in the next hour.
Yeah.
And so there's a final kind of induction survey to fill in and some final information that I've sent out today. And there's also a table with all of the induction lessons so that you can access them. I think it's worth noting that if you are going to change subject, you need to have looked at those induction lessons before you decide to change subject.
Yeah.
And also you need to do the summer work for the subject you're going to change to.
Yes.
And then Mrs. Bendall's sending out some further information probably tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm just finalising it now. Just there's a huge induction newsletter coming out because we would normally have had an induction parents evening during this week. So I'm aware that there's a lot of information that we're trying to share via socials and things and newsletters, but it's a huge amount of overwhelming information for you and your parents. So I'm trying to summarise that as we speak into a document that isn't ridiculously long, and then we will share that out with you either probably tomorrow, most likely. Once everything is confirmed.
I think we need to get Mrs. Patterson in. Mrs. Patterson's a year 12 tutor.
Okay.
Maybe not. Oh, no, she's busy. I think she's busy.
We'll save her as a surprise for September.
But actually, I think your tutors are really instrumental to all of this.
Oh, hugely.
So much so.
Yeah.
You have a really different relationship. I hope you've watched the video with Mr. Wilson, but you do have a really different relationship with your sixth form tutor to your lower school tutor. I was some of you guys, some of the people watching on Instagram, I was your form tutor in year 10. And, it's much more about delivering PSHE and all that sort of thing. And there is some of that in sixth form, but actually they're kind of like I want to say they're like a critical friend. Like they want to support you and push you a bit, and support you socially as well as with your academic studies. And I certainly felt like I was much more of an academic tutor when I was in lower school. Yeah. Whereas in sixth form, I think you're more of a mentor. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we don't have to do, well, as tutors, we don't have to do quite as much of the sort of behavioural management and sort of everyone standing up in silence, and it's not like that as lower school. There's basic kind of protocols that your form tutors will follow in their form sessions, but it's not that kind of vibe really, is it? It's just
exactly, and it's kind of professional adult relationships. You know how to interact with people in a sensible way, and that's what we want. We want you to be honest.
You're going to have to do that, whether you go to university and you have a personal tutor there, whether you're going to go into the employment industry and go and work for someone. You're going to have to engage well with them, whether it's appraisals or whether it's interviews or general working relationships. So it's starting to practice those kind of young adult relationships that we're trying to get you involved with, rather than it being quite so strict as lower school. Well, don't get me wrong, we'll be strict if we have to, but
yeah, exactly. I look friendly, but
he's furious sometimes.
Ruben's just said, I think my emails. Ruben's just said here, what are my chances of actually getting a place? Well, quite high if you meet our entry criteria on results day. So unless you're changing course, all of our courses are, we timetable for what we thought we had when we did your guidance discussions. So unless you're changing courses, and we can't guarantee all course changes because of timetabling, because there are certain class sizes, and because actually we're still waiting for your grades on results day. So, but as long as you meet those things, I don't think there's any reason you wouldn't get a place here. We're not capped on numbers or anything.
No.
It's more a case of we want you to come here because we think you like the ethos and you're going to enjoy your subjects. And actually, if you don't meet our entry criteria, we're not right for you for those subjects.
No, and it might be that you don't meet that initial entry requirement for those subjects, but you do for other subjects. And as long as there's space on those other subjects, you will have a space to study those. So it might, it will be that it's very, very likely that you have a place to study here on one subject or another, whether it's your initial exact preference is kind of down to results day, unfortunately.
And we'll have those conversations with you on results day. That's not just we don't decide for you.
It's really tricky with you guys, with everything being up in the air so much. I do really feel for you all in the sort of unknown quantity of it all.
Charlotte said, are there any textbooks that I might need to get in advance for my courses? No. They will tell you in those first few weeks if you need to buy some books. Some subjects lend out books to students. Some subjects offer kind of online access to textbooks, and you can buy them. Yeah, so no. There might be some transition work, and there are some subjects have kind of transitional textbooks that you can buy, and that will all be in the kind of documentation on the website. And I think we'll post that on social media again this afternoon.
But there's absolutely no harm in waiting until September. You can, because by that point as well, we may well have had people that are returning old textbooks that you can buy for a discounted amount. It might be that the teachers advise you to get certain ones over the ones that you originally thought. So don't worry about waiting until September to sort all of that. I know in business we generally advise in September what we would like you to have.
I've just seen Greenhouse answer a question which has made me, hey Mary, how do we stay within the same tutor group for two? I can't read sideways.
That's not Mary. That's Maddie Lee. So Maddie's asking, do we stay with the same tutor and head of year for the same 2 years, or do we change into year 13?
That's a good question.
Yeah, very good question.
So you will stay with the same head of year. So you will have me through into year 13. That hasn't happened this year. So my year 12 currently that are progressing into year 13 have been handed over to Mr. Hansard. But it is very likely after that we will start rolling with our year group, so that we can kind of maintain that consistency from coming into year 12 to taking you into year 13. In terms of tutors, you won't have your same tutor as in year 12 as in year 13, and that's mainly for a really positive reason. So as much as it's really nice to have that same tutor and that sort of continuity, what will happen is as you move from 12 to 13, you obviously start to kind of specialise a bit. So it might be that you've identified that you want to go and get a job, or you want to get an apprenticeship, or you want to go into the armed forces, or whatever it is that you plan to do. We try and basically match you with a tutor that has specialisms in that area, so they will help you with your application. So if you want to go and study physics, for example, at university, you are likely to then go into a year 13 tutor group that has a scientist as a tutor, so they can help write your personal statement and your reference, so that it is a really strong competitive application to go and study physics. If you want to go and study English, it's likely that you're going to one of our English tutor groups, things like that. So we basically match you with tutors that have got the right skill set to give you the best possible year 13 experience, and that's supporting you with finding jobs, applying for apprenticeships, applying through UCAS, all of that, because it's a bit of a minefield year 13 with all of that scary stuff. So having someone that has got a really strong understanding of what it's like to go and study medicine at university, or go and work in the public sector or something like that is really handy to help that. So no, you don't is the answer. From 12 to 13 you will move tutor groups and tutors, but head of year will roll with you. So you stuck with me, I'm afraid.
So Mary wants to know how you join the committee, sir.
In the first 2 weeks, the current committee members will probably advertise and send out some information.
As
probably
will
do it in
the
briefing.
union and the council.
Yeah, all the student bodies.
Yeah. So all the student bodies will advertise in briefing. Probably we probably even make that the third briefing.
Yep.
Can we? Bit of
Just
fun.
have it to another job.
I'll write it on the whiteboard.
So you apply. You will then apply. It will be your elective, but you will apply and submit. There is an application form that you fill in, and the current members of the student bodies will then read those through. Many of the student bodies like to interview just to see what your skills and expertise are. But in fact, most of the time we accept the people that have applied. And if you don't, then we're really good at allocating jobs to lots of individuals. If you've got a little project that you want to do, we like to keep you very busy. So that's how you would apply.
And sometimes people, I know last year, sometimes people write an application for the committee, but actually then I read it and think, well, the things you care about aren't what we do. Yeah. So you'd be better off in the union or something. Yeah. And that kind of movement happens because we want you to be involved. And the fact you're putting yourself up there is great. Yeah. Putting yourself out there is great. That's exactly what we want, that kind of initiative, isn't it?
Yeah. What about this one about EPQs, or do we've
talked a little bit about EPQs already, but just as a very quick recap, the EPQ is an extended project qualification. It's worth just over half an A level. You write, how many words is it?
5,000? 4,000?
Yeah, it's like half a dissertation, isn't it?
Yes, on a subject or topic or title of the student's choice.
Although it doesn't have to be a written.
No, it can be something more creative. You can create. We've had somebody create a video for us for Charities Week, actually, that's on YouTube that you can watch. Or
you basically have to create
absolutely anything.
Something.
It can be a performance. So I know there's a couple of kids in the music academy this year that have done who have done performances and analysed their performance.
Yeah.
So you can do anything really.
And we mentioned earlier that you start this just after Easter time, and then that runs through with an EPQ mentor, so somebody kind of with you to guide you through the process, because it's not just about the outcome, it's more about the process and the journey that someone's gone through in the amending of the title and the research, etc., that's gone into it. And then with that mentor, you then finalize all your decisions and the write-up or the creation or whatever, and you hand that in either November time, when you then do a presentation, or January, and then you do again a presentation to your mentor. It's like an exhibition almost of all the things that have gone on. So hopefully that helps that question. When we come back to school, will we go in every day, or will some of it be online on Teams?
Good question.
That's-
Sorry, I was
this is
I'm totally phased out then. I was reading who else was saying, Diego's there saying, hi, sir. Thanks for...
Oh, Diego, hi.
Did you
I
miss
missed
that?
you. I missed that.
Did you miss that?
Sorry, yeah. What was the question again about will September?
When we go back to school, will we be in every day, or will some of it be online on Teams?
Good question. We're planning kind of plan A, B, C, D, E, F, and so on. Plan A is that we will be here full time, as per Bojo has announced, but we don't know what that will look like. So until we hear more advice from the government as to the guidelines that they're going to set out for how September is going to work, we will obviously then have to fall in line and follow those guidelines, and we may well have to change the plans that we put in place. Hence why we're trying to kind of map out for a couple of likely outcomes, but we're still not 100% sure. So I appreciate that's really frustrating, because you want to be able to picture in your mind how September's going to be, and you want to be prepared for that. But we kind of have to be really just resilient with that and say, you know, be prepared for everything and anything. So we as soon as we know, you will know. And yeah, we've just got to kind of roll with the punches.
And we will build, and you can.
Absolutely, yeah. It won't disadvantage you in any way. We will make the absolute most of everything, as we always try to. And you know, we will give you as much face-to-face contact as we are legally allowed and socially allowed. So you know, whatever happens, you will get the best of the best, obviously.
What happens on results day? Do we come in if we're coming in, if we're from different schools? I've not read that right at all. What happens on results day? Do we come in if we're coming in, if we're from a different school?
Okay, so there aren't, I believe there's going to be more information published about this in the newsletter. I know Mrs. Kennedy, our head of sixth form, is going to be sharing some information with you about enrolment day, because obviously that has changed, because we are not allowed to have you on site. So that will take a different format, and that will be explained in the induction newsletter that we are kind of furiously typing, not right now because I'm just sat here chatting on Instagram, that I promise, furiously typing away in the office on. So so that will all come out to you, and I don't want to sort of share that with you now until everything's really firmed up and everything's sorted. So pause on that question for now, and the answer will come out to you probably by the end of this week.
Brilliant. How exciting.
That's a lot of questions.
That was a lot.
I feel knackered.
But it's
I've had
nice.
to concentrate for at least 50 minutes.
So if any of you have got any other questions, then we have got a few more minutes of being with you. If any of you've got any more questions about induction itself,
or if you would like Mr. Crittenden to perform for the last minutes.
No,
yes.
it's like,
you can go find a guitar.
I'm not some kind of
quick,
walking pantomime, but
What's it, Big D and the Marshmallow? Have an impromptu session.
Yeah, we should tell some of the students.
Yeah,
that
I'm
have
gonna
got
let you
bands.
No, I feel like I needed some warning.
Did you sing as well in this band?
No, not
Just
really.
play guitar.
Just play guitar.
But we know
I
that
can't
you sing.
concentrate on-
No, lead or bass?
I mean, like lead guitar.
Lead
That's
guitar.
quite good.
Oh.
Of course.
That's quite good. I'm quite good at singing as well. All the talents.
I don't know. I've heard you on Charities Week. I would.
Yeah, because
actually
I'll tell you what,
say that you're not-
Africa by Toto, really hard to sing. However much you practice, that song is still hard to sing. They never sung that live. What's it say?
Mary and Ruben.
I would
are,
love to see Mary.
And Charlotte,
yes.
Charlotte, you've got to perform.
What song shall I sing at Charities Week this year? I think last year.
You've just set yourself up now. You're
I'm
going to
not.
sing
I can't do
Africa.
South Africa by Toto again. It can't happen again.
That's my
It can't happen again.
We could. Miss and I will be your. We're going to be your backing singers.
I don't want to.
Flying in the
Shine.
background. That's very true. Yeah, we don't want to
I don't
overpower.
think there's any competition.
There will be no comeback. If Big D and the Marshmallows. We can't do that to the world.
I was 15, 16. You need to leave me alone on that.
That's got more responses than any other questions.
That was a great performance.
Oh, what, the Africa?
Oh, that's so, and hearts. You've got
Please
look
sing
hearts
us a
as well.
Going Away song. Oh my goodness. Love that. Oh goodness me.
Oh, it's hilarious.
It's Charities Week is a good opportunity. It's such a good opportunity to kind of see what staff are really like, I think. Because sometimes staff aren't, I mean, I'm myself in front of a classroom, but
I've
some
never,
people are
have you
not.
ever performed on stage for Charities Week?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't.
The humanities dance is legendary.
I think we should do
Yeah, but
Strictly.
because we don't do a dance in vocational, it's just,
Oh.
I would 100% do Strictly. I asked, who did I ask?
Oh,
And I
you can do
Mr.
Strictly.
Hansard, he blew me out. He said no. He
Oh,
wouldn't dance with me.
that's terrible. Oh. Well, if you
So
want to
yeah,
be,
he's back.
I'm not ready for it.
He's
So
back.
Blow his back out.
You can just do Strictly on your own.
Did you say he put his
You
back
just hurt
out?
his back, didn't
Oh, I thought you meant he put his back out. As in, so you're trying to lift me. Thanks. You probably would.
oh,
Actually.
that's hilarious. Oh, well, we hope
I
you've
will
all had a great
Pledge
time.
right now. I will perform this year.
Oh, that's it.
You
She
heard it
said
here
it now.
first.
If you're in the committee, that's it. You,
I will do
Mrs.
something.
Bentley is beholden to you.
Yeah. What I would do, I don't know. Oh, actually, let's get back together. Can I join?
I don't
One day-
know.
one
Okay,
night
yeah, go on
only,
then.
one
Yeah,
night.
okay, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. This is exciting. This has been the worst hour of my life.
The mere fact that we left Mr. Crinden alone with 3 screens,
I can't.
talking to the world, is terrifying. and Tim.
I'm too distracted for 3 screens. It's too much
Yeah,
for
you
me.
don't know where to look.
I don't, honestly, I can't. I don't know
Is
which
it-
screen to look
It's
at.
basically just a really intense view of your really bad haircut.
Oh,
Being quite on Saturday.
I'm going to look like a new man next week. I'll post a photo of my new haircut on Saturday.
There
I
you
think
go.
I'm going to look like a new man. You won't recognise me.
Is the beard going or is that
The
staying?
beard's not going. I don't have a chin if I don't have a
Same with you.
beard.
Lockdown hasn't been
Just
kind.
skin just keeps going. Yeah. Anyway, they're probably all gone now. No, they haven't.
No, there's more of them. So is there anything happening tomorrow in induction day? What do they got?
No,
to look
but
forward to
tomorrow would have been the 4th day of induction, and we've kept that free deliberately because we've only just made available all of the lessons that you could have tried. And so I would use tomorrow if you're thinking about course changes, or even if you've got a kind of niggling feeling that you wanted to try something out and you probably aren't going to do
Watch
it,
it.
but you just wanted to try it.
Yeah.
There's no harm in watching it because it might be the thing. It might be the thing you end up doing in life.
Or if you've got an
So just
interest
go.
in like another
Yeah.
subject that links a little bit,
Definitely.
like for example, we've been saying actually seeing all the induction lessons that we wouldn't normally be able to see has been really interesting. So I've watched like the psychology ones and stuff because from a sort of business marketing perspective, I find that quite interesting.
And sociology.
So yeah, it might be that you sort of find natural
Links,
patterns of
yeah.
bits that you're interested in. So by all means, geek out over those. That'd be great. We would normally be out on the field tomorrow, wouldn't we? Having our sort of fun final
Social.
goodbye. Oh no, is that normally this afternoon?
It's normally today.
This afternoon,
Yeah.
sorry. So obviously we're missing that. We are going to try and plan some of that into your first week, depending what the first week looks like, obviously. So if you have any ideas as to what you would really, really like, we'd obviously, because we're going to be limited as to how much we can do, because school will have actually officially started. Induction we can normally be a little bit more relaxed because it's towards the end of the term. But if you've got any ideas as to what you would like, please do get in touch with us and give us some hints and some tips as to what you would like. We normally do like sort of kind of team building. I hate that term. It's really crass, isn't it? But team building stuff out on the field in terms of like kind of team games and challenges and stuff like that.
Walden Wipeout.
Walden Wipeout, yeah, that's not normally what we do with the PE department. They do loads of fun stuff. So so if you have got any ideas as to whether you would still like us to do that or whether you want us to do something different, if you would prefer something, some different.
And even if it's
social
as simple
events.
as, at lunchtime we get some rounder stuff out, we get you outside with
Yeah.
some music and ice creams,
Yeah.
that's very feasible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, all of this depends on social distancing and what happens in the next 6 weeks,
Mhm.
which is why we can't kind of guarantee anything. But we're certainly thinking of ways to
Yeah.
to,
And we would much
get to
rather-
know you, because I think that is part of the experience here.
Yeah, totally.
Have you
Right.
talked about course dropping? Did you talk about
I talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but if you do want to drop a course, all of the information will have gone out with the lessons that were sent out today. It's subjectchange@switches.net. All you need to do is send a quick email to that, just thinking about what course you want to drop. Also, having watched the lessons of the new subject you want to pick up. But that's all
Where-
in the information.
We're not looking at any of that until kind kind of Thursday afternoon and Friday. So please don't expect,
Yeah, don't
I think
panic.
I've written that as a reply, an automatic reply to that inbox. So please don't expect a response straight away and wait for us to contact you one way or the other, but we will contact you to confirm it or to discuss your options further. So yeah, don't think that we're ignoring you from that inbox or any inbox for that matter.
Oh, sorry,
Perfect.
it's not the table then.
Right. Wrap it up then.
Oh, I feel a bit sad and emotional now. See you in September.
If anybody does want to ask any further questions, just post them on any of our channels or email any of us.
Yep.
Mrs. Kennedy, I think, is going live on
Yeah.
Twitter this evening.
She's
so
doing the Twitter takeover.
not on these channels, but there is a Twitter takeover for prospective parents and students. So if you've got questions for her, just use the hashtag Switchers Induction or mention us at Switchers Sixth Form, and we'll try and respond to as many questions as we can. But have a wonderful rest of your afternoon and week.
It's about to go. That's perfect.
We're about to go. Perfect.
I think that
Amazing.
only lets you have an hour.
An hour.
Maybe that's
No.
what it was yesterday.
We talked for too long.
Ah.
You can sort your phone out
Bye.
there. So thank you guys.
See you later.
Bye bye.
Should I do this one?
Yeah.